Hello everyone, this is Edward James Tagg, and today I'm going to be removing one coat of paint on this nice Singer. It's called a 96K SV7. Now SV stands for Special Variant, and I read somewhere that during the military years, if sewing machines were left out in the rain, they would have bronze or brass bushings so they wouldn't rust. So there are some Singers that have got this SV on the label, and that means Special Variant, and I believe they were made specially for the military. Anyway, that's not the story of today. The story of today is actually removing this ugly grey paint, because as you can see underneath, I did a test last night, and if I hold this the right way, you can see the word oil. How can I get the light to shine? There it is there. See, when I see that word there, it's hard to see, but there's an L there, an I, and an O. The word oil, that's an oil port. So basically that's the black paint underneath this very dull grey. Now why did they paint it grey? Well, as you can see here, you know this area here, they stick pins in there, and you can see the asphaltum finishes there, and there's the paint being scratched off. And here's the bare metal up here, but they didn't like that, so they said, well, why don't we just paint the whole thing grey, and they painted probably on top of the rust. But so today the objective is quite simple. We're going to be doing more single paint removal using PAL coating remover, which is an amazing product, and then when we're happy that we've got to the base paint, we're going to be using shellac, clear shellac, and then we're going to be finishing off with Mother's Carnauba wax. So I'm going to do that whole process right now, so I'm going to get into it. Right, so this PAL coating remover, I talked about this before. It's an amazing product. It's only made in New Zealand, and it's non-toxic. And I kind of jokingly, yesterday when I made my video, I used my finger, but today I'm going to be a bit more responsible, and I'm going to use a paintbrush. So I'm just going to apply that area there for a test, maybe a slightly bigger area than yesterday. My kitten is playing on my wood pile, and she's probably going to get in trouble and fall down or crash something, but I'm just going to ignore her at the moment. So that's that middle portion. I just want to put it on liberally, and like yesterday I was kind of joking around and I was moving it with my finger like this. And I was just doing that as just a joke to show that it's just totally non-toxic, and it won't give you any skin conditions. Like myself, I had dermatitis using kerosene, and Sally's and other products make painting removers that are definitely going to hurt your skin and cause you pain. But this is a really friendly product, which I like, and I know I'm promoting it again for the second time. And so PAL, who make this product, probably going to be very happy with me. Now I'm also very interested about this area here, because that's where they have the Singer word, the decal, and if I'm really lucky there still might be the word Singer written underneath there. So I'm going to do this today, and I'm going to see what we get in that area, and I'm going to get hopeful, but I'm actually not that hopeful because it's already been painted and someone obviously didn't like the scratches, and it's probably very, very damaged, so I'm not going to expect to see the word Singer under there. But you know, fingers crossed, you can occasionally get lucky, but I'm not going to expect too much. I don't like loading up a brush because you're losing a lot of your chemical in the bristles of the brush. So, but at the moment I'm smearing my hand around. Now, you know, just jokingly, you know, but this is non-toxic, so you can actually do this. It actually recommends don't get it on your skin. So I repeat that just for the safety of, you know, that company coming back to me and saying, well, no, you promoted it, it's toxic and non-toxic and used it on your skin, but that's not what we recommend, Mr. Tagg. So we do not recommend getting it on your skin. But as you can see, it's well, anyway, so it's already tested, you know, here, so it works. It's safely removed in one coat. So always do a test when you're trying out new chemicals. I'll just read a bit of the blurb so I'm not being irresponsible. PAL, coating remover, paint stripper in small words, by www.paintaids.co.nz, a New Zealand product. It does say first aid in case of contact with the eyes. Rinse out immediately. Health and safety. Avoid direct contact with the product on the skin. Wear suitable clothing, gloves, surface protection, eye face protection. But it's amazing. It says application blah-de-blah, brush generously, and a dwell time of 1 hour. And so I know my camera's going and it says 5 minutes 50 seconds, but yesterday when I had it on for 5 minutes 40 seconds, it started bubbling. So we're going to wait for our bubbles to appear. Now, when I clean that off, I'm going to do a bit of talking now because I have to wait. Okay, so I'm going to do a bit of talking. There's many ways that I can clean it off. I can use the most aggressive form would be to use some Chuck's scour pads, and I just find a dirty one that's on the garden or the workshop floor, and these are the most dirtiest old ones because as they get old they get a bit more softer and less aggressive. But in this area here where I might be lucky and see the word Singer with the gold decals, but I'm pretty much 95% sure that there'll be nothing there, but if there is, then I'm going to be resorting to something softer, and I'm probably just going to go straight with Gojo. Original formula hand cleaner, non-pumice. I'll repeat that because I love this. It's very popular in the vintage sewing machine community. Original formula Gojo, G-O-J-O, non-pumice, because pumice, obviously the little particles will just offend and remove lots of pretty decals and pictures off your vintage sewing machine. Directions, I won't read the directions, but anyway, you cannot buy this in New Zealand. As I said yesterday, someone lovingly gifted this as a Christmas present or a birthday present and sent it to me from a shop in Phoenix, Arizona. So I do like my Gojo. So what I will be doing, if I use my Gojo, and I think I will, I'm just trying to find where it opens because I'm doing all this one-handedly, by the way. Where is it? Come on, I'm just finding the little edge. Oh, here it opens. I'm going to be using this. It looks like a hand cleaner, and I'm going to be applying it to the offending area. Let's say it's in here, but I'm not doing this yet. This is just for cleaning purposes. All these little crevices where it's dirty. I can show you now how it actually does the cleaning process, but I mean, it's expensive for me because it's mostly all shipping, but if you just buy it in America, it's probably like $5 or $10, or even, I don't know how expensive it is in America anyway, but it's quite cheap. So I'm using too much there, so I'll transfer some back to the tub because this is kind of precious for me. And then I'd use some cotton balls. I'd just pluck out one little cotton ball, and I'd probably move that around. Sometimes I just leave it on there for a while. So that would be that part of the process, which I'll be doing later when I'm working on the word Singer. Also, you could use methylated spirits, which in America is called denatured alcohol. But one thing you must be aware of is that if you're going to use meths on a sewing machine, meths or denatured alcohol is the base substrate for all shellac-based finishes on vintage sewing machines. So as soon as you apply this anywhere near a painted vintage sewing machine, it's going to strip off all that old shellac. Now the old shellac on some sewing machines gets a really dirty brown colour, and it looks very unsightly, and so someone might think, well, okay, I'll just strip that off with meths or denatured alcohol, but I wouldn't recommend you do that because it's just too aggressive, and all of your pretty decorative decals will just strip off and get silvered. So what you must understand about a decal has got two levels. I can't show you here, but I might, if I find something, I'll show you. But there are two levels, and there's a silver layer, and then there's the gold layer or the coloured layer on top. Now, so when you use methylated spirits or denatured alcohol, you'll definitely remove the pretty pictures and get down to what's called silvered, which is the silver underlayer, and you don't want to do that. You could go for something a bit softer like kerosene. I know this is in a sunflower oil container, but that blue color means that's kerosene. So kerosene is less aggressive, but Gojo is less aggressive still, really gentle. And you can use different types of things to get it off. You could go for superfine wire wool. See, superfine means 000 grade, superfine hobby pack. This is wire wool, steel wool, and I'll use that possibly today, but I'm going to use an old Scara pad. So I'm waiting now for the bubbling effect. I'm going to start polishing it now, although it's a bit too early, just to kind of see whether or not any of the grey paint comes off. And it's not coming off yet. I know, because I had to leave it on a bit longer. Yeah, so I have to leave it on a bit longer and I have to continue talking to you. So I might do some more painting. Do a little bit more painting while I'm talking and see how lucky we get. I want to do all this in one video, so that's why I'm delaying and talking, because I want you to see it happen. I want you to see it happen magically right before your eyes. So that would be nice, wouldn't it? If it would perform for me, so we could see it happen. I'm just painting on a little bit thicker, although it doesn't need to be super thick, but just enough to get that chemical reaction going. And jokingly, I've used my finger, but I don't recommend that because the company would probably not want you to do that. But they've got to cover themselves for safety and legal reasons, obviously, don't they? So they would say that. But it's non-toxic. But I don't... Oh, there, it's starting to bubble back there. There's the bubbling. That's what I was waiting for it to happen. So if put it on a little bit thicker and probably wait another 30 seconds to a minute, you're going to see some really, really good bubbling going on. Now, the critical thing about this is really important, I'm going to repeat this and really accentuate that, is that you only want to remove one layer of paint, just one layer. So you don't want to leave it on long, because it'll actually dig down deep to the second layer of paint. So you don't want that. So I'm not going to put on any more. I might just, with my finger, might just dabble up here. You don't want to put on any more than one application, and you don't want to go that deep. As soon as you get bubbling, I'm going to be wiping that straight off as quickly as possible. Just trying to get that off my finger now. So that I'll put the lid on, and I'm not going to use any more. Put that aside over here. Now, so we're going to be looking for the appearance of bubbling, and there you can see it right there. I'll leave it a little bit longer because I want to see more consistent bubbling. I'm actually going to dig it off with my finger. Oh yeah, there we go. See there? It's coming off now. I can even scratch it off with my fingernail. And yeah, it's coming off with my fingernail, which is not the ideal method of application or use. So I'm going to use this Scotch-Brite pad. As you can see, it's very mucky. I've had kerosene on here and engine oil, but as I start polishing it, that one layer of paint's coming off, and that's exactly what I want. I don't want to remove the black underneath, because the black is what I like. I'm trying to do a level of conservation on this, similar to a museum conservator, where I get back to the original intended appearance of how it would have been. Not at the point of manufacture, but kind of, at the time of usage during, the military World War. Because if this is a special variant, which it is, SV, 96K SV7, it'd be nice to think that I've got a machine from, World War I or World War II that's in the kind of general appearance of what it would have looked like during that time. So I'm now rubbing off with this cloth, and it's coming off. Although I think I'm attacking it a little bit too early. As you can see, the bubbling's only minor. It hasn't bubbled everywhere, so I'm gonna move that with my finger back to the area, because I think I'm going at it a little bit too early. But there's nothing wrong with trying to remove it too early, because better too early than too late, right guys? You know, if you left this on a long time, if you went inside, made yourself a nice English breakfast cup of tea and got yourself a couple of shortbread biscuits, and you came out and you thought, oh no, that's good to go, we'll just leave that, and then it just totally ripped right through all those layers, you'd be a bit upset, wouldn't you? So right up here where I'm looking for the word singer, there's some really great bubbling down here, and I'm not gonna leave that there on long at all, because if I get down to that level and I see that word singer and I see a tiny bit of gold, I'm going to be so happy. But I'm not hoping for that, because you can't expect these sort of things with something this old. If this is World War II, yeah, I'm kind of thinking that's what it is. I mean, I saw one guy online say that special variant meant wartime outdoors. You know, they use phosphor bronze. Phosphor bronze is the most strongest brass or bronze for bushings, bearings, or whatever you want to call them, because you know, in this part of the machine right here, there's no ball bearings in here. There's actually a bushing, and I think in this end here as well. I think this area here has a bushing as well. So they're not. You think a high-speed sewing machine would have bearings, but it doesn't. Back then they had bushings. Yeah, brass or phosphor bronze in this case, if it is a special variant that was intended for the military. I'm doing a bit of talking, I know, because I'm just waiting for this bubbling, and you can see it nicely appear, but it's only in two spots, obviously where it was on stronger. So I'm going to start removing that now aggressively with this Scotch-Brite pad, and it is coming off nicely. I mean, it does take a bit of elbow work. I mean, well, not really. It's pretty good. And I'm just going to keep, just testing that and bringing it back again over that area. Might even have to do another application. I think this paint is a bit thicker than what I tested yesterday, so I might need to put on a little bit more, but because I think there wouldn't be one coat of paint, there'd be at least two, and it's quite thick. But I don't want to start stripping down the black. But the black isn't really going to strip that much, because it was really a baked in the oven asphaltum recipe that doesn't get used anymore, I don't think, and so it was quite strong, so it's not going to strip really quickly in 5 or 10 minutes. Although this video has been going for 18 minutes. There's some lovely bubbling happening under here, if I can get the camera right. I apologise that I haven't got a tripod, but I can't move around and show you, and handheld is the way to go today. I'm sorry. And we have to wait. So I'm just going to keep working on it. And I don't believe in editing videos. Why do I not believe in editing videos? Because I find the editing process, I'm just too lazy. I could do it if I wanted to, but actually I like the flow of realism. That's a good expression, isn't it? I like the flow of realism. I do. I like the real-time flow of realism, because that's the nature of life. If my cat was to jump up here and I was to say, naughty pussy, you get off there, you're going to get your tail in this dangerous chemical, that would all go in the video. All joking aside. Right. So I'm just... See, you can see it's working. At the moment it's a bit slow. I could be really aggressive, and I could even get a scraper and I could really have a go at it, but I'm not going to do that. Sometimes I use my fingernail. I'm not going to be aggressive, because aggression is not the way to go with restoration. I worked for Rodrigo Titian in Titian Studios in North London. Was it Neasden? No, not Neasden. I think it was NW7 or wherever it is in North London. No, Islington or something like that. And when I worked in Titian Studios as a woodcarver, antique restorer, I had all these museum conservator trained people from Europe, like France and Italy and Germany, and they were all working on Chinese lacquer work, and they were, very carefully, they're very slow and very carefully. I mean, God, the man hours it takes to restore a Chinese lacquerwork cabinet is just astonishing, and painting fine detail, and they work really slow like this. So that's how museum conservators work, and watching them I learnt to work slow. It's not very cost effective, but if you want to do a good job, you've got to go slow. I know I'm using my fingernail, and that's probably not appropriate. I probably should have got a little wooden scraper, but I'm doing this single-handedly, and I'm not going to... Well, let's see if I've got a wooden scraper on the floor. No, I do not have a clump of wood, but I'm just going to continue to use this Scotch-Brite pad. It's getting a bit mucky though. Start really aggressively moving it around now. Not too aggressive, but that's the paint underneath. It's coming off. Yeah, like it to be a bit faster, but like I say, it's a slow process. Well, not too slow. I mean, because they in the recommendations, and they say 1 hour. So, but like I say, I like to work like this, because if I left it for an hour, it might be eating into my black paint. Highly unlikely, but I wouldn't want to risk it anyway. Sometimes down here they actually have a lovely Singer logo on. The real old ones, like getting back to 1880, they had a huge Singer logo right on the bottom. They don't do it in the war years, or the after sort of the 1920s, but they used to have a lovely logo down here, so if you attacked this area in particular, you'd be damaging something quite pretty. Now, as you can see up here, this is really, really working, and so I'm going to use some of this Gojo, and I'm going to start wiping this area. The reason I'm doing that is because if there's the Singer decal under there, last thing I want to use is to use some last thing I want to do is to use a Scotch-Brite pad or anything aggressive. So I'm using a cotton bud that for a lady's makeup, and I'm just going in here really, really gentle, as you can see. So just a cotton bud with a bit of Gojo. I'm not even going to use mess, because mess would attack and silver the word Singer underneath. Now, I'm pretty convinced that there's no Singer under there anymore. I think we're well beyond that opportunity of seeing something pretty under here, but I'm being on the careful side rather than on the aggressive side. But as you can see, it's all coming off, and I'm working slowly and carefully, like a museum conservator. Well, I never worked as a museum conservator, but I was surrounded by museum conservators training me all the time. There's also a guy called... what was his name? I can't remember his name. This was an Otago Settlers Museum, and he was trained at the Sorbonne Institute in Paris. What was his name? Francois Lacroix? Yeah, my French is not great, but anyway, Francois Lacroix taught me lots of museum conservator techniques on actually how to disguise an antique old furniture, but also, well, lots of techniques. So I learnt a lot from Francois Lacroix from the Otago Settlers Museum in Dunedin, who was trained at the Sorbonne in Paris. I learnt a lot from Rodrigo Titian in North London. So anyway, I'm going to finish this video here, because I was going to teach you about mothers, and I was going to teach you about shellac, but I might do that on part 2, so I'm going to finish now. So as you can see, that's all coming off, and I had a warning about storage was full, and it might cut this video off. So we might have to make this into a 3-parter, and as you can see under here, I'm not seeing the word Singer. And I'll finish this later, and I'll come back for a 3-part, 2 or 3-parter. So I'll finish there. Lovely talking to you, or teaching you, or whatever, but this is how to strip 1 coat of paint on a vintage sewing machine.